Well, hi, all my friends. Welcome. It's Friday, and it's a beautiful day today. A little chilly, but very nice in California, Southern California. Uh, Still had those terrible spraying in the skies. What are you gonna do? You know. Anyway, Andre, I hope we got the oil and tar thing figured out. So, uh, yeah, we have different regulations here for our ships and companies. We hold them to a higher, standard. And if we ever find out that they've done a, oil spill in Alaska, for example, or something like that, man, it's all over the news. At least it used to be. So, yeah, it's very, very sad about, and all the animals suffering in the environment and everything like that. It's just very nasty and not pleasant at all. So we are in the book of Swedenborg, and I'm finished at, or stopped at page 62. So I'll just kind of go a little bit above that um, to catch us up a little bit. I just got some beautiful pictures from my friend in Minnesota. Oh my God, she's got these icicles that coming off her house at least 2 feet long, and beautiful. She's got all kinds. She's in the woods. I mean, really, and she has animals and she's just such a lovely person. She takes care of the animals and gives them, has a little feeder out for them, and she and her husband are just delightful. I adore both of them. And anyway, they've got snow everywhere, and it's just so lovely to look at. So anyway, and if Dee, if you happen to be watching that, know that we love you. So anyway, let's see. I'm trying to see what's familiar, but okay, I'll just start at the top of the page here. Is there anything else I wanted to mention to you guys before no, nothing else going on really. Okay. Gonna be doing some music this weekend, having my friend coming over, another cohort guitarist is gonna come over, and we're gonna play some music tomorrow and kind of get ready for the 23rd. Maybe play some stuff together. I'm not quite sure what we're gonna do, but he'll be over for a few hours, and then got some other things I'm going to be doing tonight and then tomorrow as well. So, or tomorrow night, and then Sunday. So I keep forgetting that today's Friday. And anyway, so I hope that this finds you well, all of you guys. Leave me a comment whenever you can. All right, so one's face is not exactly like that of anyone else's, since the face is the image of the mind. Isn't that interesting? I was thinking about that yesterday too a lot. And the spiritual world is an image of the dominant love. In the spiritual world, it's an image of your dominant love. Huh. So what, you manifest an image of your dominant love on your face? I'm not quite sure what that means, but anyway, okay. So the pleasures of any specific individual are infinitely varied as well, with no pleasure ever entirely like any other. This applies both to the pleasures that come in sequence and to the ones that occur simultaneously, and no two are ever alike. However, the specific pleasures of any given individual go back to that single love, which is that individual's dominant love. In fact, they constitute it and therefore become one with it. In much the same way, all pleasures overall go back to one love that is universally dominant. In heaven, a love for the Lord, and in hell, a love for oneself. So, the only way to know the kinds of qualities of the spiritual pleasures into which natural pleasures turn after death is through a knowledge of correspondences. This teaches in general that there is nothing natural to which something spiritual does not answer. It teaches specifically the identity and nature of whatever does so correspond. This means that people who are engaged in this knowledge can recognize and know their state after death, provided they know their love and how it relates in its nature to the universality, dominant love to which, as we have just stated, all loves go back. However, people who are involved in self-love cannot know what their dominant love is because they love whatever is theirs and call their evils good. They also call false things true. The false notions that support them that they use to rationalize their evils. If they were willing, though, they could still know their dominant love from other people who are wise, because these latter see what they themselves do not. This does not happen, though, in the case of people who are enmeshed in their self-love, that they have nothing but contempt for any teaching of the wise. On the other hand, people who are in heavenly love do accept instruction and do see evils into which they were born. They are led into them. They see them from the truths, because truths make evil obvious. Anyone can, in fact, see that what is evil and the distortion it causes by seeing from the truth that arises from what is good. But no one can see what is good and true from an evil standpoint. This is because the false notions that arise from evil are darkness and correspond to it. So people who are caught up in false notions that arise from evil are like blind people who do not see things that are in the light. They avoid them the way the owls avoid daylight. On the other hand, the true perceptions that arise from good are light and correspond to light. So people who are focused on the true perceptions that arise from good are sighted and open-eyed and can differentiate between things that are in the light and shade. I've been granted confirmation of this too by experience. The angels who are in the heavens both see and grasp the evil and false promptings that well up in them from time to time. They can also see the evil and false promptings that engage the spirit in the world of spirits who are in touch with hells. Through the spirits themselves cannot see their own evil and false promptings. They do not grasp what is virtue of heavenly love, what conscience is, what is honest and fair, except as it is to their own advantage, or what it means to be led by the Lord. They say these things do not exist and therefore make no difference whatsoever. All this has been presented to encourage people to examine themselves and to identify their dominant love on the basis of their pleasures, so that according to the grasp of knowledge of correspondences, they may know their state of life after death. It is possible to know from a knowledge of correspondences how our life pleasures are changed after death into what corresponds to them. But since this is not common knowledge, I should like to shed some light on the matter from experience. People who are caught up in evil and have formed fixed false convictions against the truths of church, especially people who have rejected the Word, the Bible, flee from heaven's light. They plunge into cellars that look murky through their openings and into crevices and into rocks and hide themselves there. This is because they have loved their false notion and hated true ones. Cellars like this and crevices in the rocks as well. The false things correspond to darkness and the light corresponds to things that are true. They find it pleasant to live there and it painful to live out in the open. People who took delight in covert plotting and in manufacturing deceptive schemes in secret also live in these cellars. They move into rooms so dark that people can barely see each other. They whisper in each other's ears in the corners. This is what becomes a pleasure of their love. If people have loved the academic discipline only in order to sound learned, without using them to develop their ability to reason, taking delight in their pride at the contents of their memories, they love sandy areas and prefer them to meadows and gardens because sandy areas correspond to these kinds of study. People who are wrapped up in knowledge, the doctrines of churches, their own and others, without applying them to life, love stony areas and live among rock piles. They avoid cultivated land because it's repulsive to them. If people have given nature their own prudence and their own prudence credit for everything, and have used various devices to gain high office and a great deal of wealth in the other life, they study magical arts and are misuses of divine design and find them the greatest pleasure of their life. People have adapted divine truths to their own loves and have therefore falsified them love urinary things because urinary things correspond to the pleasures of this kind of love. People who were filthy misers live in cubicles and love the filth of pigs and foul odors they breathe out from half-digested food in their stomachs. If people have devoted their lives wholly to pleasure, living elegantly, plundering to the gillet and belly, loving this of the greatest goods of life, in the other life they love feces and latrines and find them delightful. This is because pleasures like these are spiritual filth. They avoid places that are clean and free from filth because they find them distasteful. People who took pleasure in adultery pass their time in brothels, where everything is filthy and foul. They love these places and avoid chaste homes. The moment they come near such homes, they feel faint. Nothing pleases them more than to break up marriages. People who have been bent on revenge and have therefore taken on a savage, sadistic nature love places like morgues and are in hells of that sort. Others fare differently. In contrast, the life pleasures of people who have lived in heavenly love in the world change into kinds of corresponding things that exist in heaven, things that come into being from heaven's sun and from its light, the things that light renders visible have hidden within them divine realities. What comes to view from this source moves the deeper reaches of angels' minds and the outer levels of their bodies as well. And since the divine light, which is divine truth, emanating from the Lord, is flowing into their minds, which have been opened by heavenly love, it presents in outward form things that answer to the pleasures of their love. In the chapter that dealt with representations and appearance in heaven, and the chapter on wisdom in heaven's angels, I've explained the things presented to angels' sight and the heavens answer to their own deeper natures or to elements of their faith and love, therefore to their intelligence and wisdom. Since I began supporting this general proposition by examples drawn from my experience to shed light on what has been said so far on the basis of the causes of things, I should also like to bring in at this point something about heavenly pleasures in which the natural pleasures turn for people who live in heavenly love in the world. People who have loved divine truths and word from the deep affection or from an affection for the truth itself live in light, in uplands that look like mountains, that are constantly bathed in the light of heaven there. They know nothing of the kind of darkness we have at night in the world, and they live in springtime climate as well. Their scenery offers them views like fields ripe for harvest and vineyards. Everything in their houses gleams as though it were made of precious stones. Looking through their windows is like looking through pure crystal. These are the visual pleasures, but they actually are deeper pleasures because of their correspondence with divine heavenly qualities, since the truths from the word that they have loved and corresponded to the harvest fields, vineyards, precious stones, windows, and crystals. And I'm going to stop there. Have a great, great weekend. Love you guys, and ponder that for a while. Okay, bye-bye.